Hey, welcome to Pat's Soundbites IGTV. Keeping new music alive is what I do on the radio and now on video. Conducting live chats with the artists and learning the stories behind their latest release and also playing their new video. And a very special thank you to my good friend Gail Parento at Parento Guidance, Public Relations Strategist. Parento Guidance is a leading New York-based firm that has represented the likes of Bob Hope Enterprises, Hooters, Playboy, Bon Jovi Entertainment and Bon Jovi Acoustics, the Village Voice Opie Awards, the Princess Grace Foundation, the New York City Marine Corps Council Annual Mess Night, the rock band Boston, two-time Olympic gold medalist Catalina Witt, and many other cultural, publishing, nonprofit, and commercial clients. For more information, contact Gail via email at gailparentoguidance.com or by phone 212-532-3934. Special thanks today to my sponsor, Go-Go Tuners, for all guitar players looking for a focus on ease of use, readability, durability, and accuracy. Look no further. The Go-Go Tuner is the choice of many touring professionals and a favorite of casual players. Go-Go's signature green you're in and red you're out screen makes tuning quick and easy. For more information, go to the website at gogotuners.com. Special thanks to WBXO Classic Rock Radio Redefined, allowing me to keep new music alive on the radio airways on the Pat Show every Sunday from 5 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. Only on WBXO Classic Rock Redefined. And a big thank you to Mr. Evan Balzer for allowing me to use his amazing instrumental that you're hearing right now. It's called Trails. To find out more incredible music by Evan, go to his website at evanbalzer.com. Today's special guest, well, he's not a singer, he's not a songwriter, and he's not a musician. He is, though, a New York Times best-selling author. 2 books, Pancakes in Paris and Let Them Eat Pancakes. I'm talking Mr. Craig Carlson. And the name of his 2 diners in Paris, France? Yeah, Breakfast in America. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, just like Supertramp's #1 great worldwide album that was on the charts for 6 weeks at #1 in 1979 and won Supertramp 2 Grammys in 1980. Well, that's the same name as Greg's 2 diners. We're going to talk to Greg about, well, how do you open up a diner in France? And how did he choose that name? Oh, and guess what? He got to meet Roger of Supertramp, just like I did, on their 40th anniversary tour of Breakfast in America. We're going to have a lot of fun today. A lot to talk about with Greg Carlson, right here on Pat Soundbites IGTV. Hey, live on Pat Soundbites IGTV. Real excited day today. A little bit of a curveball. You know me, keeping new music alive on the radio and also on video. Well, this isn't exactly new music. It's actually old music, but it's really cool. And I am super excited to share with you this wonderful gentleman from Paris, France. This is a first. And look behind them. It says Breakfast in America. So
there it is.
A little bit of a, you remember this band all my life.
Oh, yeah.
Little Supertramp Breakfast in America. I'm talking with Mr. Craig Carlson. He is a New York Times best-selling author, Pancakes in Paris, and now he's just put out a second helping, I guess we could call it, Let Them Eat Pancakes, which you had me and my wife rolling. I love it. I love it. Great job. So much to talk about, Craig, man. Wow.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and hello everyone from Paris, France.
That is so.
You wouldn't know it from behind me. It looks like you could be anywhere with this diner.
It looks like Manhattan. I mean, it looks like I'm walking down the street in Manhattan, but it looks really cool. I mean, You're such an inspiration, and congratulations on the success of the business. Craig not only owns one diner, you own two. Am I correct?
Two, yeah.
Two
Yes,
in
exactly.
Paris, and he's got two great books. Go out and buy the books. I guarantee you will be laughing. You will be smiling. Craig takes you on this wonderful journey, and I love every bit of it. Craig, I've kind of broke it down into segments, so obviously
Right.
for the listeners, let's just take it a little bit, and I know this is probably your 100,000 interview. Take it from the beginning. I know you're originally from Connecticut. You got a bachelor's from UConn. Go Huskies. Moved to LA, then he goes to USC for his master's in film production. Nowhere does it mention hotel and restaurant management.
Nope. That is not even, it wasn't even in the program. It was never planned.
Have you ever worked in a restaurant, a waiter, cook?
No. I mean, I helped someone for I was an extra for 2 weeks in one place in LA, and that was it.
And you said, I ain't doing this anymore.
Yeah. What is this thing? Yeah. No, I thought I was going to be, well, you said it. I did a junior abroad when I was at UConn and fell in love with France. And that next step led to my falling in love with cinema, because here in Paris, it's like the cinema lovers capital of the world. They just 200, 300 films a day are shown here. Old films, foreign films, new films, everything. And that inspired me to go to USC, right? And so I thought my life was going to be cinema. And so I was a screenwriter and all this. But then my life took a completely different turn. And I ended up working on a TV show in Paris because I spoke French. I did it for 3 seasons. And at the end, I was like, I don't want to go back to LA. I want to stay in Paris. But what am I going to do? And then my friends brought me to a coffee shop downtown in LA called The Pantry. And I ordered this big breakfast. And the minute it came, it was buckwheat pancakes, eggs, ham steak, sourdough toast, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, eureka. The one thing, it was like this aha moment. The one thing I missed in Paris. It's like, wait a minute, that's what I'll do. I'll open the first diner in Paris. And then that started the whole journey, because I had, like you said, I had no restaurant experience. I never owned my own business. I'm not a cook. And here I'm going to open the riskiest business in the world in a foreign country, in a foreign language, that happens to be like the food capital of the world. So
yeah,
it was,
I was going to say it's the food capital. Did your parents think you lost your mind? What happened to our son?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I mean, really? All that schooling, and you're going to go to do a restaurant?
From beginning to end, Craig, before you were able to open, how long of a process was it? A couple of years?
It was such a long process. I would say from the moment I had the idea to the doors open, it was almost 3 years.
Wow.
And believe it or not, 2 of those 3 years was just putting a business plan together, raising the seed money, because I had graduated from USC Film School with $64,000 in student loan debt. And my credit cards were maxed out. Yeah, exactly. And so I didn't have the money to get it started. And so I had to raise the money. I had to raise $100,000. That took me over a year. And then once I got that, I brought it over to France, opened a bank account, applied for a loan. But first I had to find a location. So that took almost 6 months, 8 months.
Location.
That's what it's all about, right? Oh yeah, and so once I got the location, then I had to do all the renovations, which turned into a nightmare. They went on forever, and almost ran out of money, almost didn't open. But then in January of 2003, just a little bit of Frank's, well, that wasn't Frank's, euros in our bank account. We opened up the doors, and the rest is history. So
and the story of meeting that couple that wouldn't sell, right? There was a couple that said, we were waiting for the right person, and time and prayers and answered. You're the adopted son of these wonderful people who can eat free anytime they want.
Anytime they want. Exactly. It was this elderly couple. They had been running the cafe for 35 years. And the wife was trying to push the husband out the door so they could retire. But this was his whole life. He had no kids. This is all he did. And so she said, when we get the right person, and who would ever thought it'd be an American guy, coming over to do a breakfast place. And they took me under their wing. And that's the first location. So that was like, imagine that first location, 35 years that hadn't changed hands. Before that, another 35 years.
You're the guy.
To the 30s. And I was the guy. So.
Did they take any heat because it says breakfast in America? Did they know you were going to do that?
They did actually, and they liked that idea because when I explained to them what the spirit was, there was a neighborhood place that that families can come and that there'll be regulars and it'll be just a warm, welcoming neighborhood place. They really liked that because that's what their cafe was. And the only ones they didn't necessarily object, but they were more of a bar than a cafe. So they had a lot of the local lushes that would were going there all the time, and they would sometimes stumble in a little bit drunk and go, "Wait a minute, this isn't the same place. What happened?" so
Steak and eggs
they're
and
the
a
only.
bottle of wine, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm giving them a mug of Joe, and so that was the only ones that were a little taken aback by the fact that there was an American place. But I was just so happy how welcoming people were in the neighborhood. It's near the university, so you have the Sorbonne, another university. So you had a lot of young students who were really excited. They love American movies. They watch Pulp Fiction, where there's scenes inside of these types of places, coffee shop diners. And so for them, it was like stepping into an American movie. So there's some of my film school experience actually came to help, because
I think a big key is your love for this city. I
Yes.
mean, I'm sure you sold yourself to that couple that go, look, I'm not flying back and forth to LA. This
Yes.
is home.
This is where I'm going to live.
This is where I'm going to live.
Yeah.
I got married here.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
my husband. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going. So I think that, if it's somebody that just is buying businesses and came up with an idea, I'm sure they
Yes.
might have said, but
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
sold yourself really well.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
it helped,
that
I have to
makes
say,
a
that
difference.
yeah, and it helped that I spoke French pretty well by then too. So that I was able to kind of, even though I still would make funny mistakes and they would laugh, and so that added to the the connection we had together. So
And learning the laws. I mean, I'm reading the book about hiring folks, and once they pass probation, you can't get rid of them. Is the chef going to come in? And you don't have, did you learn? Can you run a kitchen? Can you flip?
Yeah.
I mean, you had
well, I mean, if I had to, I could go in there and
Right.
sling some hash, as they say. But I do not do it as well as our cooks. I got to say that. And but breakfast, I've always actually been able to cook breakfast at home, omelets and pancakes. I've always loved that. And but when you have people waiting outside a big line, and you got to turn those tables, I'm not there yet. I'm not that fast.
It's all good.
But I prefer being the person who meets everyone and greets everyone and all that.
Yeah, that's me. That's the blah, 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 blah. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Where are you from? I want to hear your story. And yeah.
But I mean, I was getting into the hiring process. If you could just explain some of that, of the challenges of the laws. You can't fire somebody if they steal from you. I mean, come on.
No, you have to. I mean, there's so many stories from my fellow cafe and restaurant owners where I go, "Oh my God," and you still couldn't fire them, right? I mean, what you have to do. Well, first of all, it's about a 3,000 something page book, the labor code, and every year they add stuff onto it, and it ends up sometimes contradicting what's been there before. So a lot of it just ends up being interpretation, a matter of luck, if you have to go to court, like who your judge is and how they interpret it, because it's not very clear and it's a gray area. But let me just give you the one example. The very first employee I hired, he was actually Scottish, but I had to do a French contract for him. So it had a 2-month trial period. At the end of the 2 months, he started acting a little different and strange, because what happens, it becomes a permanent lifetime contract after 2 months, after you get past the trial period.
Lifetime contract.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much a lifetime contract where it's basically job security, right?
Is that for any job there? Not to cut you
Any
off.
job there, yeah,
Wow.
every job, yeah. And so, but his behavior started changing, and it got worse. And so one day he got really aggressive in the restaurant. At the end of the shift, I took him out. I said, "You're fired." And he freaked out. He went back. His girlfriend was French. Next thing you know, I get summoned to court. It goes on for 2 years, and he wins. He'd only been there 2 months, and he won this big chunk of change, because you're not allowed to just do that. You can start this big dossier with paperwork, and then you have to call it in for 3 or 4 different types of interviews and send out certified letters, and you can't fire them for what they've been warned about. It's crazy. And so to this day, I've learned a lot, but so much of it is just with Julian, just kind of going with that gray area and trying our best shot. We have this and this that we've verified, but I mean, in the end, you end up doing so much of your time is just doing paperwork, and it's crazy. But luckily we've had a really, really great group now for a while, and I haven't had, in the new book, there's a couple more news stories which have happened, and there's another one, which is interesting. After this COVID, certain people got so used to staying home, and in France, they paid their full salaries, up to 85% of their salary was paid while they were locked down. And They came back, and nobody really was motivated to work anymore. I have this 22-year-old waiter, British, going, "Oh, I can't work more than 2 days. It's too exhausting." 22 years old, So this is the kind of thing. And you can't do anything. You're like, "Oh, okay."
Well, then let's just jump into the next spot. Eating in France is certainly different than eating in New York. The portion sizes. Yeah. I mean, you had to teach them. It's okay to have breakfast at 10 o'clock at night.
Exactly. Yes. So there was a couple different things. Like you said, it was three important things with the food. First was finding the right ingredients. Like when I came here, you couldn't find bacon anywhere. You couldn't find maple syrup. You couldn't find bagels really. There was like one bagel shop here in the Marais in the Jewish deli section, but not delivered to restaurants, And so I had to find all those things. So that was a whole adventure. And then after that, the portion sizes, like you said, the recipes. We have chili con carne, and you can't make it spicy. The French do not like spicy, so you have to be very careful with those kinds of things. They don't like mixing salty and savory and sweet. They don't like mixing those together. So we're kind of careful about that. But a big one is, like you just said, the portion sizes. Because in America, you're used to getting your big full plate. And
Denny's All-American Grand Slam breakfast.
Yes, exactly. A tall stack and all this. Yeah. And so I had to be really careful to make it so that, because my customers were half, mixed Americans and French. So I wanted the French to get that wow factor, which when we bring them out the pancakes, they're like, whoa. And at the Americans, they would feel they were getting their value for their money, right? So we had to find this kind of balance. So it's not quite as big as you get in the States, but way bigger than you get in France usually. But this also raised another dilemma, because the French, with the portions, sometimes it's too much for them, so they can't finish it. And so I would say to them, "Do you want to take it home in a doggy bag?" And they would go, "Oh, because doggy bags didn't exist when I first started."
That's like an insult, right?
Yeah, it was like an insult to take. Yeah, because it's seen that you eat all your meal, that shows that you liked it. And so then the French TV station came and did a report on Le Doggy Bag, and they went around and they interviewed my customers, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know if I could do that." And then I just told them, "It's great. You're not wasting your food. You can reheat your pancakes the next morning. It's great." And so then after that, French customers would start saying, "Okay, can I have a doggy bag?" And so now that's very common.
They put it in their coat. So
right, exactly, like secret and walking out the door. But the French now, because they don't like the term, because the language, I call them the language police. They're not really the language police. The language people that watch the French language, they don't like having English words inside their language. So they officially now call the gourmet bag. It's not a doggy bag. Okay. It's a gourmet bag. See, it's a little classier and a little whatever.
Hey, that works for you. Why not?
If it works for the French. And just like you said too, now the last point you made was that in the very beginning too, I couldn't get French people to understand that they could have breakfast at any time. And so it was one time, it was like 10 at night, like you're saying, and this French guy's like, "Oh, I would really love some pancakes, but am I allowed?" And I'm like, "Of course you're allowed. Why wouldn't you?" He's like, "Well, it's dinner time and pancakes are breakfast." And I'm like, No, this is American Diner. You do whatever you want, whenever you want. He was like, "Oh," like he was like, breaking the rules or something. Got very excited.
The man changing the French culture right here from the States, Craig Carlson.
Corrupting the French, as my friends say.
What's the number one item that, is it pancakes or is it bacon?
Well, for the long time, it was our, because the French would say like, "Oh, I want to try a little of everything." So we did the classic, 2 pancakes, 2 eggs, 2 bacon or sausage, or you can have home fried, or, potatoes with that. And that was our number one. And then we tried the special, just for the fun of it, a lumberjack breakfast, which is like big. It's got ham and bacon and sausage and a big bunch of potatoes, grilled tomatoes, French toast, regular toast. And that's become our number one seller. Day and night. I mean, nighttime people are ordering the lumberjack breakfast, and it's the biggest plate we have too. It's
if I read correctly, you cannot stay open 24/7.
No. Yeah, because of permits. There's only I'm sure there's more, but there's only 2 that I know of that are allowed to be open 24 hours, and they were pretty much grandfathered in from the 18th century, or something. But yeah, we can be open till 2 a.m. in one of them, because we have a full liquor license, and 12 p.m. here, this one.
One of the questions my wife had was biscuits and
Oh, yeah.
gravy and grits.
Oh my gosh, that's a question we get asked all the time. You know, we tried grits as a special, did not go over. I think it's something, it's acquired taste when you're, you know, where it's regional, where you come from. French didn't like it. Most of our customers didn't like it. American customers, the Southerners or wherever, you know, people love it. Sometimes on the West Coast too, we have the Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, and they have grits there, and so it's not just a Southern thing, but you have to like grits.
Right. You have to like
So,
grits, no doubt.
and biscuits and gravy, we tried that a couple times too. I'd like to try it again. Now that our customer base has traveled a lot to the States and they know these things. I mean, like Eggs Benedict is not permanently on our menu, but we'll do that as a special quite a bit, and people love that. But sausage, biscuits, and gravy, I think it's worth revisiting again. So I like that suggestion from her.
Can you do refills? She asked about refills, and we went to Toronto.
Yeah.
A year ago. I took her to Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
I wanted to take her to the Canadian side. I think it's a beautiful view. We were in a hotel. And I said, you know what? After today, let's go to Toronto.
Yeah.
So we spent like 3 or 4 days in Toronto. And we went to a diner right outside of university. I said, oh, this is the place. Locals are going. There's people outside. And we go in. And we got a look like when she said, can I get a little bit of a refill? And the girl just like looked at us like, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Yes or no, it's good. No, we're not going to get in an argument. So,
well, there's a great story about that because I knew from having lived here as a student that the French had a very bad image of American coffee. And in fact, they call it jus de chaussette, which in English means sock juice. So, you know, some of them would say, oh, the term comes from World War II when the GIs didn't have filters, so we'd use their socks for a filter.
Oh, right,
and
right.
And others say it was like wringing your socks. That's what it tastes like, you know. So bad image. And so you said, you know what, I'm going to have fun with this. So on the menu, I put, you know, American coffee and a mug of Joe, bottomless mug of Joe, and I translated it sock juice underneath. Just because I was like, you know what, if you're going to make fun of me, I'm going to put it right there on there.
Good
and so
for
in
you.
the beginning, people are like, I would like a coffee, please. And I'm say, which kind? And they go, oh, real coffee. And I'm like, you mean a mug of Joe? And they're like, no, espresso, not jus de chaussette, not sock juice. And so, but then once they knew it was all you can drink, and once they saw that with your pancakes and a breakfast, you don't want just a little espresso, right? You want something to wash down the pancakes and all that great, you know. And so now the French love it. They'll say, you know, I'll have a jus de chaussette, please, you know. And so, but there are a few people who are still resisting and going, no, I will never have this American coffee.
I cannot break the rules, Craig.
No, exactly. I can't break the rules. I have to have an espresso.
My grandmother would be mad at me. Come on.
Yes, exactly.
And for our listeners to know, September 26th, National Pancake Day. And I was looking up last night, Craig, if you're not aware, I'll just share with you. Top 5 most popular types of pancakes according to nationaltoday.com. And it's like this magazine that covers like all these national days. Today is National, I don't know, Clock Day or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And it said the top 5 is buttermilk by 33%, blueberry by 19%, chocolate chip by 18%, the original or just plain, nothing on it, 15%, and the bottom 5 would be banana at 8%.
Wow, that's pretty much all we serve there too. We serve buttermilk, and it's interesting because they say buttermilk, and then just regular pancakes, not buttermilk pancakes, I guess, huh?
Yeah,
that's
like
interesting.
Regular buttermilk.
Yeah, blueberries are most common with an ingredient. I think that's true. I think because the French, for them, the idea of maple syrup as well is new to them. It was new to them when I came. And
really?
So because a crepe doesn't have that, right? A crepe,
right.
It's the closest thing they have in France, a crepe. So usually it's a savory crepe with ham and cheese or something, or it's Nutella or something like that. So when I'll say, do you want something in it? And they're like, but isn't this the syrup enough? You know, for them, a lot of French customers just think the syrup itself is an added bonus, you know, and then blueberry, chocolate chip, and banana. So it's pretty much in that order of what Americans like. That's
before,
great.
When you were going to France, before the whole idea of the restaurant started, it's the cigarette, it's the cafe, it's the croissant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most of my
French
friends didn't even have a breakfast. They would just have, like I said, a cigarette and an espresso. And that was it. And once it's smoked, of course. And then if you're in the mood, you'll have a croissant, but it's not a day. You don't do this daily. Nobody has a croissant every single day or a kind of chocolat every day. It's just not a thing. It's very interesting. So now though, we've changed that. So that's a good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our connection, of course, is music. And it's funny reading the book that you knew the songs, but just couldn't put the name of the band. And
Yes.
then I'm thinking, oh, here we go, because of, the same title, the band uses it, the patents, the whole Jimmy Buffett and Margaritaville and
Yeah.
Cheesecake in America. And here you're
Yeah.
going, all right, with my lawyer, all in.
Yeah.
Guys, am I going to get sued? Am I going to be on the sidewalk? And
Yeah. Well, because as you said, as I talk about in the book, when I first had the idea for the diner, the name came to my head too. I said, I could call it Breakfast in America. And I hadn't even made that association, Supertramp, or that song until way later when my lawyer said, at first, somebody said to me, "Oh, but it's a band." And I'm like, "Band? Oh, Supertramp. Of course I've heard of Supertramp, but I didn't know the album." And I asked my lawyer, I said, "Okay." And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's a non-compete and blah, blah, blah." And then later he calls me up and he's in a panic and he says, "My colleague saw me doing the paperwork and she saw Breakfast in America and she said, 'Oh my God, you're going to be careful, you'd be sued.'" The problem was it was an age thing. It was generational. My lawyer at the time was only 30 years old. And so he thought it was like a local LA band. He didn't know it was like a world-renowned band, but his colleague, who was a bit older, knew and was a big fan. And so he said, "Oh, you better be careful." And so when I got to France, I went to the copyright office and I looked it up and it hadn't been taken. So we just said, you know what, we'll take the risk because it's a very different thing. It's a breakfast diner. It's not an album. It's not music. It's just food. And on top of it, Margaritaville is like a beautifully clever invented name, right?
Right.
He came up with a term that he could call his own. Me, I just argued, you're having breakfast in America, an American diner. It is what you're doing. You're having breakfast. So to me, it wasn't like a intellectual property name because it's just what it is, right? It's a diner that serves breakfast.
And it makes all the sense to be called that. I mean, Craig Carlson's breakfast from LA or whatever, just breakfast in America is like, boom, perfect.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Craig, before we get into the whole Supertramp thing, you opened in 2003.
Yes.
We went through 9/11 in 2001. Was there any thought of that even then or even now? Again, because you're an American, we're Americans, on how I don't know how we're looked upon, obviously, in Europe and France. Was there any thought of that? With terrorism and stuff like that?
There wasn't from 9/11 because, as you know, the French famously said, "We're all Americans now," So all I got was just sympathy. Just like, "Oh my God, we feel so terrible about this." It brought us closer together. So that was never a problem. Where it became a problem a little bit was 2003 with the Iraq War. Because I had opened up in January and the war started in March. And then the French students were out there protesting against it right in front of my diner, walking right by. And I'm like, "Oh my God, are they going to smash our windows? Are they going to what are they going to do?" And the wonderful thing about the French is they just separate politics from the personal. I never ever felt threatened. I never felt that they could be arguing the stuff, but they would still be your friend. It was not a problem. So thankfully, it never became an issue. And so I'm quite happy about that. And even now with disagreements with Europe and Trump and all this, there's no problem at all.
Good. That's great to know.
Yeah.
So I got to see Supertramp, my last show, as I said to you before I hit the record button, February 15th to hang out with Roger. And the thing with Roger, it's Roger Hobson, formerly of Supertramp.
Yes.
It was the 40th anniversary of Breakfast in America worldwide. And he even though he lives in California, in the East Coast, he plays like 3 shows. Mm-hmm. It's like outside of Philly, Connecticut, and I'm not even sure if he touches upon New York, but I keep missing it. And I said, there's no way I'm missing this show. Yeah. There's just no way. I've been a big fan forever. No, it took me a long time. I think when I went to college, I finally figured out what the hell is Kippers for breakfast. Yes. Even though we're singing the song like we all know what we're talking about, I have no idea what Kipper is until I'm like, oh, it's a herring and it's cut up and pickled and salt and smoked and.
Yeah, we don't have that. We don't have Kippers yet.
It's not on your menu either. But
then he could sue me. He could actually sue me if I had Kippers.
when did you meet Roger and the band. Well, I know you were nervous about the whole thing when Gail says, this is a good idea. And you're going, no, no.
Yeah, exactly. Because what had happened is for years, we were I always felt, okay, we've been under the radar. They probably haven't heard about us before. And then when I had my first book, my publicist Gail was like, okay, let's get it out there and da-da-da. And so she's like, it's time to contact Supertramp. And I'm like, really? Oh no. What shouldn't we just keep trying to stay under the radar? She goes, he's going to find out one day. So let's just do it. Let's reach out. And she did. And his publicist came back and she couldn't have been nicer. It turned out, I think it was 2017. He was doing the tour in Paris and sold out for 3 nights. Unbelievable. And she said, would you be willing to do some advertising in your restaurant, put up some posters? I said, sure. They sent me some posters. And then to show my appreciation, I went and I bought 4 tickets myself on the company dime. And we offered a contest at each restaurant for 2 tickets to go to the concert. Nice. And so we had the big winners and they went. And boy, that night was it just changed my life because, as you mentioned earlier, even though I didn't associate the songs with him, one of my favorite songs of all time is The Long Way Home. I just think it's such a beautiful song. It always tears me up about, how time goes by and you wish your life could be this way. And before you know it, you've missed your chance. And that's how I interpret it. And so it's always been like this. Oh, and so here he is at a sold out concert. The French, that's the other thing we got to mention here. The Breakfast in America album is in, I don't know if it still is now, but when I opened the restaurant, it was in the top 3 best-selling albums of all time in France.
Absolutely.
I mean, Supertramp is huge in France. That's why he always comes back. That's why you'll see in the video, he speaks in French to the audience. They love him here. So when he came up on that stage, it was just love in that arena. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. And then he opened up with my favorite song, The Long Way Home. And then, of course, just one hit after another, which most of them he wrote, right? And Roger Hodgson wrote. And I'm sitting there with my husband, Julian, and I'm like, oh my God, we're filming it and all this. And then we captured that moment where, I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, let's show the moment. Come on, we got to show the moment here.
Show the moment.
I know it's a little fuzzy and all, but at least.
Yeah, it's a phone video, so.
Let's.
Inning? Oh, there it is, yeah. There it is, Breakfast in America.
Unbelievable. Uh-oh.
And there I am.
Yeah, that was like me.
And then here it is right after the song is finished.
Craig Carlson, you are here, Craig?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my.
You got a restaurant called Breakfast in America?
Yes, I do.
What restaurant? Je visite.
My favorite line coming.
Oh no, pour un restaurant.
That's right.
And at that moment, I almost fainted. I almost passed out. I was just like...
That is so cool. I mean, and
it just shows what a great guy that he is. I mean,
he is such a cool guy. And
unbelievable.
Here is Pat.
Yeah. Oh, wow. There you are.
There I am with Roger after the show, and I'm yapping my brains out. And he's going, is this guy ever going to shut up? And here's you and Julian and Roger.
Look at me. I'm all sweaty because I'm so excited. I'm like, I'm like freaking out. I'm like,
oh my God, what a cool thing to have. And he's what a great show. And he's such a terrific guy. And oh my
exactly.
goodness. No.
Like I said, the French were just, they're just like, je t'aime, I love you, Roger.
Yeah, and, he doesn't put on, he doesn't do a lot of shows, but he hits certain areas and then boom. I'm like, just 3 shows in the East, and I'm like, okay.
And the 40th anniversary that you talked about, he was in Paris for that as well.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know if you've ever got a chance. I know in the book, one of your friends gave you the album, and I think you got it probably posted. But I was looking, and it's funny that these guys, back in 1979, they're from Supertramp, formed in Britain, and they all have foreign newspapers. The Glasgow Herald, the Manchester Evening News. Roger's got the Oxford Mail, It's
so funny. I never noticed the newspapers
like the
that they were reading at
newspapers,
the
they're
time.
not even, they're all in foreign, except for the one in the corner. It says Los Angeles something, but they're all, foreign guys, European guys, checking out their local,
and now that you mention, I would love to find out where that was shot, and which diner. And the woman that plays the waitress on the front, she just passed away only a couple years ago. She lived well into her 90s, and she would recreate this pose right up until the end. I mean, it was quite a cultural moment, I think. And you have the whole skyline, New York skyline, with all the dishes and things. Just a beautifully conceived
World Trade.
There as well. Yeah.
But yeah, I like the TV. They got the little TV.
Oh my God!
Yes, under there.
Yeah.
You got to take a look at that. I know you got a copy. Your
Yeah.
friend said, and you're like, I'm not hanging this up.
Yeah, well, not way. I'm like, thanks, but
I love the book. I mean, you have a great sense of humor in how you write, and it took you on a cool journey. And I watch you now on Facebook Live with your mother-in-law, Elizabeth. And this, what I love about it the most is the history she's sharing about France.
Yes.
Of you and the area where she's living, of what they bought and how it was in 18 something, and how she cooks the apple tart. And I think it's great for you. I'm sure Julian might know a little bit more, but to share it with you, and she's not trying to hide from the camera. A lot of people, they're not into public speaking or they don't want to get a picture taken. And here's your mother-in-law. She's relaxed and she's cool. And
she's a natural, isn't she?
She's a natural.
You know what it is? It's her passion for food. I mean, she just loves cooking so much. She loves cooking for me, which I'm so lucky. And so just get her talking about it. And like you mentioned, Julian, her son, didn't know a lot of these stories. He didn't know when she first had escargot, the snail. He didn't know about the first time she had this apple tart. And so it's also a way for him to get closer to his mom. And so we just kind of spontaneously did our first one a couple weeks ago. You can go on my Facebook, Craig Carlson Author, and watch it, or on Pancakes in Paris, my YouTube channel, where you can see the Roger Hodgson clip. And we just said, hey, let's do one of these. And people loved it so much. They go, oh, we have to do another one. So I think we're going to do these every time she comes up to Paris and find a new, a new story, something she can relate to her childhood. Because in the book itself, too, I also there's a whole chapter about her. And so she grew up in Burgundy with a single dad. And her dad had been a prisoner in the war, World War II. And how much, when he got older, she would always try to get him to eat less because of his heart and everything. He's, listen, I was starving, and then the prison, you're not going to cut back now, So he would just take second and third helpings. And she's like, you know what? I can't argue with that, Dad.
Yeah,
you eat what you want. And so I think here, I want to make that connection. And I think of both books, I did that. And I tried to do that, and this one in particular, I'm hoping, because all of us are limited with our traveling right now, that this can be like a little armchair travel for you, that you can read this book and you feel like you're in France, even if you've never been here, and if you wanted to come, or you've come, or you just want to see what it's like to come to France. I think.
Oh, I would love to get on a plane and be there tomorrow. It would be cool.
Right? Yeah.
There's so much to see throughout, not even in the States, but elsewhere, and to learn the cultures. And we've been I retired a few years ago from emergency services, and I've been doing the radio thing forever, but I love the music, but I come from emergency service background. I go, now's the time. She's never seen like the Grand Canyon. I want to take her out to San Francisco. She would love but I go, I mean, Italy and France and Spain and Germany. I'm like, oh my goodness, I would definitely. Well, fast forward real quick before I let you go, Craig. So we're dealing with this COVID. How did that affect you guys there? I mean, obviously everybody was in lockdown, I'm sure, and it probably impact the business, I would say, quite a bit.
I think one of the hardest parts was how it just crept up on us very quickly, because we knew what was going on in Italy, but nobody quite knew how fast it was spreading, right? And so weekends are always our best. Like a diner in America, Saturday and Sundays are always packed, right? That's when people come with their families. That's what keeps us going, right? And so Saturday was just packed. And that night, I think it was the 12th of March or 13th of March. That night at 8 p.m., they announced, the Prime Minister came on. He said, in 4 hours, you have to close all restaurants down by midnight on Saturday. Can you imagine?
Oh,
So
what do I do with all the food? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. We had all prep for our Sunday brunch the next day. The fridges were packed with food. So there was all that. There was the whole logistics. Oh my God, we got like 1.5 days before lockdown. They were going to do it on Monday afternoon. So we had Sunday and off Monday to clear out everything. And so we gave away as much as we could to our staff. We tried to give it to some charities, but it was just too fast. It was too quick. And unfortunately, a lot of food got thrown out. And no one, of course, knew what was going to happen. And we were in lockdown for over 2 months. And then little by little, they started bringing it back out, in steps. But I can say that there was a moment where I'm thinking, oh my God, are we going to make it through this? And it was in May, when the lockdown was still going on. We ended up moving in here, Julianne and I. It's a whole nother story, because our apartment was being renovated. And when lockdown hit, we couldn't move back in there. It was all being destroyed. So we moved into the diner upstairs as a little apartment. And here we are locked in, and we're like, you know what? And neighbors are walking by saying, can you start doing to-go? Because when you go out you could get a pass to go out and do your shopping and all that. And we're like, can you start doing to-go? There's only one place in the entire neighborhood that's open for to-go. And so we got a cook to come in, and next thing you know, we opened up and we started doing to-go. And before you know it, we had lines. We had people, before we could open up, right? And then the next step was the terraces, the outside patio, seating, and then eventually, end of June, we're allowed to bring people back in. We're still at 60 to 80% of what we were before, but that's enough to keep us going, and it's a lot better than, unfortunately, a lot of our fellow restaurateurs. So, but it's been an extra push. We had to push extra hard, to get people to come, but we had a very large client base. So so many of them came to our restaurant was the first place they came to when they opened up. So that was a nice testament to the place, because what I always loved is the comfort food aspect of the diner, and that's to see that's translated to people, that they feel warm and fuzzy, having the pancakes.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
That's what it's about. And so I think that, and the other thing that's come out of this, I think another positive, sticking with positives, is we've gotten so close to our fellow restaurant owners. Before we'd be nice and polite and hello, but now we support each other. We help each other out.
Do they
somebody
have
goes into? Sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Do they have a like a restaurant association?
Yes.
Like here, so you can be part of and know everybody and work with everybody and.
Exactly, because right now, is it okay if I show you a little bit of where we are right now?
Yeah, sure.
So, right now we're on this outside terrace. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
You see it okay?
Yeah.
This is usually parking spaces for the cars, right? But the government lets us use this now all through, actually they just prolonged it till next June. So we get to put all the tables outside here. And so that's been really, really, really helpful. And luckily we've just had wonderful weather. And so we've been able to really kind of bounce back. So yeah, so basically the association they talked about, we've all petitioned the city to try to keep this going as long as possible. And apparently it worked, because they're pushing it to June now, letting us do this. It was going to end in September, but
good for them, because obviously they see that they need the economy to get going as well. So to June, hey.
Next year. And cafe, it's the French culture, right? Sitting in a cafe for hours. You have to have your cafes, right? And the French know this. It's cultural as well. So
before I let you go, my friend, what advice would you give someone that says, I'm thinking of doing something that they never even touched upon, and you certainly proved it. What advice? I guess maybe probably do all your homework.
Well, I think that's a lot of it, is because a lot of people come up to me and ask for advice, and then I saw them do just the opposite. And I'm not saying you need to live and learn, you need to learn, make your own mistakes and everything. But I think what I was really up to doing, because I knew I had a very narrow way to make it. I had just enough money to get through. I couldn't mess up too much, And so I would listen to restaurant people, hear what got them off track, and really, really pay attention to those kind of things. The only part where I really didn't listen was getting my heart set on that very first location that I had, thinking that would be the location, there'd be no other one. And when it fell through, I was heartbroken. But guess what? That happens so often, I found out. And people warned me ahead of time, don't get your heart set on this one location. You can always find another if it falls through. So, but other than that, I think the best advice is two things, is to really speak to the people that are doing the kind of thing you want, and really get their advice and really take it to heart and listen to it and adapt as you go. And then just get obsessed about the idea because it's going to pound you down sometimes. You know, there were moments where I just thought, how am I going to get to this next step? And you just have to believe that it's going to happen. And I think that's that American optimism, that American, you know, spirit that I really put to use here, and got contagious with my French friends. You know, they were brooding and getting behind, you know, because the French like to go, oh, la, 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 you know, and be this, you know, they're not big cheerleaders, you know, but boy, by the end, they were in their own way cheerleading me. So
a little perseverance, a lot of luck, but a lot of hard work. You did your homework.
Common sense.
Like anything else, you write a business plan, you go see, is it needed? Can I squeeze it in? It's different. This is different. It's not, you know, Craig's Cafe where you're going to get the same espresso. This is totally different, out of the box. I mean, for me on the music end, you'll love this. So my thing is keeping new music alive on the radio. And I get literally 10 CDs a week from people I don't even know. Just to play my track. So my the hardest time I have is labor intensive of really taking the time and listening to everybody's track.
Yes.
And then I would tag them on Facebook or find them and say, hey, I am going to play it. I like it. So then I came up with the idea, thinking outside the box, the dice game.
Yeah. What do you do with that?
One day and I go, I want to do something more. I want to meet the bands. So I came up with this thing called the dice game. Pat Calamari's 5 for It All. So I meet the band like a Roger or somebody who's got a new album out that I could promote. And I meet them before or after the show, and they roll 5 dice. And if they roll a 5 of a kind totaling in 3 rolls, I play the entire EP or album on my radio show.
I love that. I love that. That's a way to be very fair with people. Yeah. How many times is that?
In 2 years, it's happened once.
Only once? Oh my
well,
God, like,
I've had a few go, look the other way and turn the numbers. But, I mean, I've had the pleasure to meet Paul Rogers, a Bad Company. I don't know. I haven't, you know, Alice Cooper, Billy Gibbons, the ZZ Top, all the bands, because they're artists and they create new music. And anybody can play the hits. But there's so much great music out there that nobody knows about. Well, that's my niche. And then I took it up a little bit of a notch. So I videotape them on Facebook. And it only takes a minute of their time. It's not like, you know, oh, my God. And it's a blast. And it actually happened last June. A band, Collective Soul, who are really good guys that I've known for a little bit. And Jesse hit 3 4s on the last roll. And you think we won like the World Series or the Super Bowl. We're jumping up and down in the dressing room. And the following time they were in New York, I met them and I gave them a gold record. You're the first one. Pat Calamari's gold records, 5 for It All.
Right. And that's it. It's about that connection, isn't it? Just meeting with the people that, you know, and creating a community. And
I love music fantastic. And I want to promote them. And nobody else is going to do it. Well, I'm going to do it. Like you know, you're taking a risk. Everybody like, are you lost your mind?
Exactly.
No, I love France. I love American breakfast, and nobody does it. And I want somebody to stop me, and I'm going to do it. And look at you. So I
just like I think like my mother-in-law. It's something I love, and I hope that the French would learn to love it too. And that's what's happened. So that's
congratulations. Great. Where can they find the book? Barnes and Nobles.
Barnes and Noble. You can find it on Amazon. I'm a big supporter of your local independent bookstore. So if you have one in your city, go through them. If they don't have it, they'll get it for you. Order it rather quickly. And so, you know, I have some great ones. Broman's in Pasadena. I love the Shakespeare Company in New York. There's Kenyo's in Long Island. So all these different places that I did my tour of my first book. So that's what I really recommend. And but please check out my Craig Carlson Author Facebook, and you'll see my upcoming events. I'm doing my Paris launch this Friday.
Excellent.
The book. So lots of things coming up, and more of these of my mother-in-law cooking. If you love cooking,
I love it. It's great, great stuff. Craig, man, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck. We're going to send you a T-shirt. Don't go anywhere so I can get your address. And maybe I get a T-shirt of Breakfast in America from you in return. Buy his book. And if you're in Paris, go visit Craig, man. It's a great, great thing.
Thank you so much. We'll welcome you here with open arms.
Excellent.